More fun on a Monday. How's it get any more fun? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Prediction Markets Edge right here on the early line. We got you covered over the next half hour. Different way to invest your money, Joe. And as I'm taking a look at the Final Four, wait do you see some opportunities to invest here. I'm excited. It's Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranieri, just so I can do every day, Monday through Friday. Bring the people, Joe, exactly what they want.
Yeah, I'm looking very forward to this week here, Donnie, and the prediction markets offering us a couple of different ways to approach this Final Four and this championship matchup. So, a couple of different ways that we can go to, shall we say, be profitable when it's all said and done.
Big East, Big Ten, game number one, Final Four, Saturday night, start at 6:09 Eastern, Joe. That's Illinois taking on UConn right now. Currently trading, Illinois is the favorite. Chance to win, 55% on the predictive market Kalshi here. And, of course, UConn the dog at 45%. If we include the spread in this, Joe, Illinois favored by 2.5, currently trading at 49 cents, which means a $100 investment on Illinois to win this game by 3+ points. That would pay back $200, Joe, and $5.
Yeah, so it's interesting here, Donnie, because I think it's clear that we've got a couple of things happening in the markets. Number one, you've got, I think, Arizona and Michigan overpriced a hair. I do think that Illinois and certainly UConn is definitely underpriced in these markets in a big, big way. So when you look at, unfortunately for Michigan and Arizona, they got to play one another, right, Donnie, which is a bit of a problem. But Illinois and UConn are sitting here. That's where the value is to win the championship, because whether it be in Arizona and Michigan have to, they're going to have to feast upon one another to make it to the title game. That leaves the winner of this Illinois-UConn game, to me, Donnie, where all the value is in the future market. I happen to think UConn is the team to look at because they're the lowest priced team right now. How they're getting points and are an underdog here, I don't know, but in the prediction markets, not only do I like them to beat Illinois, I like them to win it all, Donnie. And currently, the way they're priced, you can go ahead by picking them in the championship market as well and make yourself a pretty good profit without having to win the championship.
And by the way, Joe, opening up some of these markets here on cashing the predictive markets, how about the props and the mentions here, Joe? If an announcer or color commentator says record, buzzer, draft, drafted, recruit, recruited, and recruitment, and many other things, an ankle, a double-double, a schedule, Joe. Like, let's just say, hey, UConn comes in with a good record. That's currently trading at 68%, a chance they'll say that. Also, ankle, which means somebody has an ankle injury that will come up. But also understand this, buzzer is currently trading at 61%, which means they're going to show the highlights show in this game from UConn and how they got into this by knocking off Duke. A shot right around the buzzer. Airballed, All-American. Anything you want, Joe, feels like. It's in the prop market for this game. Fantastic stuff. Different way to watch it.
Absolutely. I mean, those mentioned markets, very much a lot of fun, Donnie, to keep it going. And some of those mentions, you're going, how in the world do they not say these words in these phrases? So, I like that approach as well, especially the mentions correlate to who the winner is as well, Donnie. Keep that in mind.
No doubt about it here. Michigan and Arizona, Joe, Final Four game number 2. It's going to take place at 8:49 Eastern. That's Michigan and Arizona. Currently trading as the favorite at 52%. The Michigan Wolverines. Arizona currently trading at 48%. If we bring the spread in, again, another low one here. Michigan by 1.5 points, currently trading at 49 cents. And again, you can use these sliders, Joe. Think Michigan wins by 4.5 or 7.5 points. Slide it up for the plus money here. But Michigan currently, Joe, trading as the favorite here, going up against Arizona.
And that was surprising, too, because a lot of people in the look ahead thought maybe Arizona would be the favorite, a slight favorite. But either which way you cut it, Donnie. I mean, look in the futures market here alone in the championship market. They're priced at about 35 cents each. So there's not a lot separating these two. And if you truly think that whoever wins this game and you don't want to pick between these two, then just pick who you think is going to be the national champion and look to that market, because I got to tell you, Donnie, that either of these teams are going to be the favorite against either Illinois or UConn. I don't even think it's up for debate, which means they could go from 35 cents to all of a sudden, close to 60 cents when it's all said and done. So I do think that pick your winner here and then correlate that to the championship market and double your profits and double your fun if you're right here, Donnie, because I don't see a lot separating these two teams.
And if you want to get into that mixed market again here on some of those mentions, how about the word elbow, Joe? Currently trading at 56%, which means an elbow jumper. You hurt your elbow, fouled on the elbow. Many different meanings there, but also one time you can cash out. A $100 wager would pay back at $173. Let's flip it over to the association tonight. A monster favorite, Joe. Chicago taking on San Antonio, the Bulls and the Spurs here. San Antonio trading at a 93% chance to win this basketball game. If you include the spread, Joe, 18.5. Currently trading at 50% here. A 20-point blowout. Looks like it could be on deck tonight for the Bulls and the Spurs.
Yeah, I would only look in team total markets here.
Yeah.
And, you know, listen, Chicago the other night did a very interesting thing in a very close game. Donnie, heading into the fourth quarter against Memphis, they sat most of the starters in the fourth quarter and just put in a bunch of young guys. Chicago ends up losing. So Chicago is not a team. We know they're not going to play defense with Billy Donovan. And if they're going to keep experimenting and throwing guys in the most important part of the game out on the court, then just go ahead and back the team that you know is still very much battling here in San Antonio. It could be in line for that number one seed. I would look at the team total. San Antonio team total up and over. They might drop 130 points in this game.
Another game we're looking at for a possible blowout scenario. Detroit Pistons on the road to take on OKC. If both teams are fully healthy, you might get a more competitive matchup. But on the predictive markets show, Oklahoma City currently favored at an 85% chance to win this game. Detroit only 15%. The total in this game, 219.5. But the side, Joe, if you want to include the line, 14.5 as a favorite towards OKC, which means they'd have to win by 15 plus. That currently trading at 46 cents. But if you want to hit that prop market, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you know he loves his 30-point efforts here. $100 investment in Shai scoring 30 or more tonight. That pays back 186, Joe. Maybe another blowout tonight, huh?
Well, again, the problem is the entire Detroit Pistons team is questionable here. So it could be no Duran playing there. Ausar Thompson not playing. Tobias Harris likely not. I mean, you go down the list here, Donnie. Detroit, for the most part, and they did this yesterday when just before OKC tipped off to the Knicks, the injury report came out. It looked like Detroit was sitting everybody. And if that's the case, I don't know if this is a head fake or it's not, but I only need a couple of guys to actually be elevated to upgraded. And this line is going to drop, Donnie, in a big, big way for Detroit. I think it all centers around Jalen Duren. If you think he goes, I would grab the 13.5 points now as opposed to later, because this will drop into single-digit territory if one or two of those guys is cleared to play.
And also, what Joe's talking about here, you might not have to get the game time to be profitable. You take that line early in the morning, those players are in, that line drops, you have a profitable ticket that you can certainly cash out on there. Let's flip it over to Major League Baseball tonight. All eyes on Seattle. Yankees are in town. The perfect Yankees at 3-0 to take on Seattle. You take a look at the trading here, Joe, on the Kalshi predictive markets. How about a 50-50 split? Yankees, 50% chance to win. Seattle, 50% chance to win. Even right down the line, Joe.
Yeah, kind of crazy. And I would look towards a total here. Number one, Donnie, we've got, and it's a new year, new season, which means it's the fate of the Sunday night baseball teams alive and well. Seattle won last night, shut out the Guardians, but I'm not convinced that they're going to have success on a rested Yankees team here tonight. I think the under in runs might not be a bad look, especially for the Mariners.
Take a look here, even in the first 5 innings here, total runs, Joe, over 3.5 there. If you take that no ticket out, currently sitting at 89%, but also $100 investment payback, $223. If they stay under the 4 runs here, so a little bit of discrepancies here left in the marketplace. And also, as you know, when you look at the sports books here, Joe, they only give me Stanton to hit a home run. I would love to invest in the no. You can invest in the no here on these predictive markets here. So open your horizons. People should say expand your horizons, and maybe you can invest and be a little bit smarter there. Prediction Markets Edge on the early line. Coming right back after this short break.
It's not sustainable. Pitches throwing too hard and not being healthy, so that don't benefit anybody as well. So it's better to, if a guy throwing 97, why not just throw 94, 93 and learn how to pitch. And then you can last longer. So it's more about keeping the product, on the field and being on a consistent basis.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
What about the expansion stuff?
Yeah, but doesn't it make a lot of sense, Kevin? So but it's 28-29. He's already talked about, I'm playing in the Olympics in 2028. Retirement isn't on KD's mind right now. Play in the Olympics in 2028, and then the 2029 season, play where it all started, baby. Seattle.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I wonder if you could argue UConn's more overseeded than, like, the idea that UConn was battling for a 1 seed, quite frankly, never made any of sense to me when you look at where their metrics were stacked.
UConn will be great as long as they don't play St. John's, apparently, in the tournament. They're good to go there. But you put them at a 5, Kevin. Now here we go again, like last year, Bill Self versus Rick Pitino.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball announced yesterday that they will be having a partnership this season with a company that we've come to be very familiar with over the last 6 months. Polymarket is the exclusive prediction market partner of Major League Baseball and the only platform allows to use teams, logos, and marks. Representing the latest pro league to embrace the prediction markets.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Prediction Markets Edge on the early line continues to roll along. And how about if I told you a game's going to be played today? Michigan versus Texas. Whoa! How did Texas get back in? And why does Michigan have to play them again? But we're talking about women's college basketball. Elite 8 edition set to begin, Joe, in roughly 10 hours, which is 7 p.m. Eastern here. Michigan, Texas, women's college basketball. Texas, an 80% chance to win this basketball game on the Kalshi Marketplace. Michigan, Joe, only listed at 20%, but if we do include the spread, 9.5-point favorite for Texas, currently trading at 52 cents. If you feel they're going to win this game by 10-plus points, $100 investment, Joe, would pay you back $193. Women's college basketball Elite 8 gets underway tonight once again.
Yeah, and well, it's funny because we already have 2 number 1s that have advanced, Donnie, in UConn and UCLA. Texas is number 1. Michigan is number 2 here. So, and Texas has done nothing but just bulldoze everybody that they have come in contact with this month. So, I mean, this is their 3rd straight trip to the Elite 8. They embarrassed Kentucky last game. This is a tough team to get in front of. Michigan has been great this season, but it just feels like experience matters, and nobody's got more of it than Texas in this spot. So, yeah, this game could get out of hand in a hurry here.
Elite 8 starting back up tonight here. Powerhouse South Carolina takes the court at 9 p.m. to take on TCU. And if we're looking at the predictive markets here, South Carolina, a 90% chance to win this basketball game. 10% here on TCU. But if we include the spread here tonight, Joe, 13.5, roughly 2 touchdowns as a favorite for South Carolina, currently trading at 54%, which means a $100 investment on South Carolina win by 2 touchdowns tonight. That would pay you back $186, Joe.
I mean, look at South Carolina, number 1 seed, right? We all know South Carolina has a championship pedigree. But, Donnie, they have won to this particular point. They have outscored their opponents in the tournament by 135 points. That is absurd, Donnie, in 3 wins here. Now they're taking on number 3 TCU. The spread tells you everything you need to know, right? Like they shouldn't even show up. We'll see about that. Sometimes if you're just rolling teams and never getting pushed, it's going to be interesting to see. Can TCU keep this thing close enough to put a little pressure on South Carolina? Because nobody's been able to do it to this particular point. I think TCU might punch back here a little bit against South Carolina.
Let's get back to the men's game here, Joe, because we've got 4 teams left. They'll play in the Final Four this Saturday. Then the following Monday here, a week from tonight, you'll know your NCAA champion, and you can invest in it here on the Kalshi Marketplace. And by the way, $201.9 million have been invested in this marketplace throughout the season on who is going to cut down the nets and be the men's college basketball champion. The current favorite here slightly is 35% chance with Arizona, followed closely by Michigan at 34%. Then you have Illinois and UConn, Joe, at 18 and 14% respectively.
So this is exactly the point I was making here, Donnie, is that, listen, take the Illinois and UConn game. If you like UConn to make it to the national championship game, I mean, they're trading at what, 14 cents right now. That is by just getting to the game, Donnie. I don't care what and I don't think they'd be much more than a 3 or 4 point underdog here in that spot, no matter whether they play Arizona or Michigan. But I do think that price from 14 cents would likely go to 35 cents, maybe even 40 cents, just for making it to that particular point. So that's how I would approach the national championship market, is who do you think is going to win? I still think it's a coin flip between Arizona and Michigan, but whoever wins that, Donnie, they're at 34, 35 cents. What are we waking up to them the next day? 60 cents? 65 cents?
Exactly. And if you're looking at a way to invest it there, and let's just say you think UConn's going to win it, Joe, a $100 investment would pay back $7.15. But also, understand this, UConn plays that first game, or plays that game in the Final Four, and is up at the half. That tickets automatically go from 14% to 16% to 18%. You don't even have to watch it play out. Just a different way of thinking here when you're trying to invest money, as opposed to watching it play out all the way to the end. You can jump out of those contracts certainly at any time if it is to your benefit. Let's keep it in pro basketball and also college basketball. Mix it in. Why? How about the players drafted in the top 3? Well, certainly Cameron Boozer was putting on the show. Wasn't his fault that Duke went down. Darius Acuff Jr., Arkansas, fantastic player. He's trading at 21% to be drafted top 3. And then there's Caleb Wilson at 16% here. So instead of just saying who's going to be number 1 overall, Joe, it's almost like horse racing here. Bet, show, place, whatever it would be. Same thing here in the NBA. Just get me in the top 3 in the draft, and you'll be able to cash in a ticket here.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the easy ones we know who, Dybansta there and Peterson out of Kansas, likely going to be some sort of 1 and 2. But number 3 becomes interesting, Donnie, because Boozer, to me, might actually go higher. Would not shock me after what we've seen. I mean, that kid is just purely dominant and top of mind, right? It would feel with a pedigree of NBA, his dad had a pretty good career. Something tells me that maybe he could be the unsung number 1 pick instead of those other 2 guys.
It'll be fun. We don't really see that crazy market movement like we do in the NFL, where it's like, hey, the best player all year in college, the minute the college season's over, you start poking holes in the guy. Maybe he shouldn't be number 1 overall. Like Dybansta is a 99% chance not to go number 1, to go top 3. So, Joe, if you feel you want to hold your money for a few months here in this marketplace, a $100 investment would pay back $102, Joe, if Dybansta goes in the top 3 here. So let's then say, okay, just told you about the NBA. What about the NFL? How about the number 2 overall pick, which takes out Fernando Mendoza? All expectations, he's going number 1. Reese, Bailey, and Bain Jr. here all in a row, with Reese at 63% as that edge rush here. Currently the favorite, Joe, to go number 2 overall.
Yeah, and with good reason, because number 2 is who, Donnie? You got to take into consideration who it is. That would be the New York Jets. And that would not shock me at all. Reese or Bain or some edge rusher on the defensive side with Aaron Glenn, a defensive-minded head coach. They already signed Geno. He's going to be your starter, so they won't do anything stupid like drafting Ty Simpson or something along those lines. So, yeah, I think even at 60-some-odd cents, I think that's a good look.
I'm telling you right now, Joe, quarterbacks always get overdrafted. But once again, you're brought up to this topic and point of saying, well, I don't think Ty Simpson is going to go. But I got to tell you right now, trading at 5% seems kind of low, because you know what happens. He's going to have his pro day. I never saw a better pro day in my life than Ty Simpson. It was better than Mendoza. So that 5%, Joe, might go to 8%, 9%, or 10% here, and you can get a return on that investment. But if you think Ty Simpson does go number 2 overall, a $100 investment, Joe, would pay back $2,000 on top of it. It's fun markets. They move up and down each and every day based on word of mouth and speculation. You can certainly cash in and use that to your advantage here. Tiger Woods has been in the news. We're going to include some Tiger talk next, right here.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, the dust is settled on the game. They just ended, so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The early line only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And I mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge only on SportsGrid.
Prediction Markets Edge on the early line. Oh, we're going to have some fun. And yes, we're going to get to Tiger Woods in just a few moments. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Ranieri. But let's talk about the Masters coming up soon, Joe. April 9th, 8 a.m. begins in 10 days. The favorite, let me guess. Oh, yeah, that's Scotty Scheffler at 16%. Bryson DeChambeau, 8%. Jon Rahm, 8%. Rory, 7%. Ludwig Oberg, 5% here, Joe. So the question is the investment smart on Scotty Scheffler, or do we take out a $100 investment against the no on Scheffler and would pay back $117 if anybody but Scotty Scheffler wins this tournament?
Listen, I don't think it's guaranteed he wins anything here, Donnie, but
Ooh.
I certainly wouldn't tie it up now at 86 cents. I think let's say he goes out, he shoots 68, he's top 5, top 10 after Thursday, Donnie, you can go back to this market, and I think you'd get a much better price on the no if you're convinced he is not going to win this. But I think you got to go current form, too, right? I mean, Rory's not exactly been lighting it up. Aberg has. Xander is back to being Xander here. So I think there's some opportunities. And again, this is a market, Donnie, that is going to reprice after every round. So if you lock in a guy at 5 cents like a Xander Schauffele, if he's leading after Friday heading into Saturday, guess what that number is going to be? It's going to be 25 cents. I mean, that's a 5x return from just investing early without him actually needing to win anything.
Joe, Polymarket's got exactly what we need right now. The hot topic of the day, Tiger Woods. We thought it was almost assured that, he was probably going to come back and play in the Masters. And by the way, Joe, on March 25th, trading at 74% to the yes that he was going to come back and play the Masters. Let's fast forward to today, Joe. He's down to a 17% chance to play in the Masters tournament, which means something must have happened, I'm not sure, from the 25th until today. Oh, yeah, that was a car accident where he's being charged with a DUI here. A $100 investment, Joe, would pay back $112 if you feel he's not going to play in the Masters at this point now. No way he shows up at Augusta, does he now?
Listen, even if he wanted to go to Augusta, Augusta is not allowing him to come and play simply because they don't want the distraction. And that's all he would be, Donnie. Getting there, it would be a giant distraction and take away from everything else. That's not anything they're about to get into. Not to mention his PR team is hard at work right now figuring out how do we recover from this, and how do we get either rehab or something else has got to go on before the Masters gets here. That's for sure.
No, certainly. And again, he's not going to want to answer those questions when it's going to be. It was, 15 plus
Right.
years ago where he had that press conference where he stood up there and had to explain his infidelity and what happened in his marriage. And it was just a whole charade. He doesn't want that again. The Masters is the biggest stage. And the Masters will probably say, Tiger, might be best if you just don't play this year, and we'll let this one go away and see what happens at this point. Steph Curry, we know he's an avid golfer. And how about this? On Kalshi, Steph Curry to compete in a PGA Tournament event before 2028. If you feel that's a yes, a $100 investment would pay back $271. I do think it's a yes. Understand this, Joe, and you know as well as I do. Playing in a tournament event doesn't mean you have to go into Q school and get your card. You can actually just get a sponsor's invite to that tournament. I think this might be a worthwhile investment here, Joe, that he does play before 2028 in an event.
The problem, Donnie, is we heard this with Tony Romo back in the day. Like Tony Romo is he's a 2 handicap. He's going to think he's definitely going to be on tour. Now, and where is he? Nowhere to be found. That's the whole key to it, is that unless you are able to compete with these guys, then you're just a novelty. And I just don't see. Steph Curry still has a lot of basketball apparently in him. At least that's what most people think. I don't think by 2028 golf is going to be on the radar.
I think he might sneak into one of those in the offseason, Joe, but we'll certainly have that to find out and play out. Also, 2027 Ryder Cup team captain. Do you know who, again, was trading on March 26th at close to 84%? Sure, it was Tiger Woods. Let's fast forward today and check out Tiger Woods. He's at 3% today, Joe, at this point. Crashing markets all over the place. Now, granted, we're still a little whiles away, and maybe he can sneak into there, but is it worth your while, Joe, to say, you know what? Tiger's still going to be that Ryder Cup captain, or does he completely just go away from golf, apparently, here?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, who suddenly shot up the board, Donnie, is Gary Woodland, who, again, just won that tournament, but he was also, don't forget, he was part of the Keegan Bradley coaching team, dude, that went to the Ryder Cup there. So don't count out Gary Woodland here now either.
Volatility, Joe, is what we talk about in the marketplace, and I don't really know if Kalshi wants you to invest all that much. Why do I say that? He's trading at a 3% chance. But if you hit the yes for an investment, it's 67 cents, which means a $100 investment only pays back $150. So almost that, hey, wait a second, these scales aren't balanced right now. We just need more information to see what's going down with Tiger Woods. But that'll do it for the Monday show right here. Prediction Markets Edge on the early line. Always a lot of fun for Joe Ranieri and Donnie Rightside. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the SportsGrid Network.
I don't like to overthink it, Kevin. I really don't. And similar situation, I feel the same way when it comes to betting. I find like that Sunday night, so, you're watching the NFL games, and all of us do it. Like, all right, let's look to next week now. You know what I mean? That Sunday, like, the dust is settled on the game. They just ended, so I'm like, let's look at next week. My first reaction is always the best reaction.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Why the regular season, Joe, does mean something, because Detroit is going to get a back-end team in the East to begin.
Yes, and it does. And it's just a very strange situation, unfortunate situation for Cade Cunningham in Detroit. But the good news is, if you keep playing teams like the Washington Wizards, well, you're not going to need Cade Cunningham to win those games like they did last night.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We are really starting to see that slowdown, and we're anticipating it with March Madness this year. Obviously, you don't have as many states going online. Gone are the days when you're adding 10 states every year, so the numbers will inflate that way. And I mentioned prediction markets taking money as well. One firm, HG Gambling Capital, estimates that they'll add about another $500 million in bets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You can put your skill and your luck to work on Kalshi. Why? They're offering $1 billion here. If you can pick the perfect bracket, sounds easy, Joe. Just pick the perfect bracket, get $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the odds of actually doing that, Donnie, are about the same if you're expecting to hit the Powerball lottery 6 times in a year.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.